Royal Rebounds TV with Calvin and Barry. Just two crazy fans of the Sacramento Kings, and they sharing their opinion. So be sure that you subscribe. It's for the fans, by the fans. Whether you chilling on the couch or wilding in the stands. For laid back conversations about the Kings, subscribe here. Staying down until we come up thinking this gonna be our year. We're here drinking beer, talking about the Kings. Be sure you subscribe so you can hear that bell ring. Yeah.
What's up, Kings fans? Welcome back to Royal Rebounds, a Sacramento Kings YouTube channel for fans, by fans. Sorry we're getting started here a little late today. We got caught up with some stuff earlier, but we're here, we're having fun, and we're talking about your Sacramento Kings. If it's your first time to the channel, my name is Barry, and on the right side of your screen is Calvin there. We are two awesome Kings fans, and we love talking about Kings basketball. We are live, so I'm going to throw that on here. Also want to remind you, if you are a Kings fan, please smash up that like button. Please hit that subscribe button and go ahead and share this channel and this video with all your favorite Sacramento Kings fans. I'll give a shout out to Brian here in the chat. What is up, Brian? What is up, Bert? Thank you guys for joining us. And Calvin, how are you doing today? It's Thursday.
It's Thursday. I'm doing well. Thank you. I apologize to everybody for the late start. It is because of myself. It's been a very busy week at work, and I got home a little late today, but I'm never too tired to talk Kings basketball, so let's get into it.
We can't forget about Gothan either. What is up, Gothan? What is up, Matthew? Yeah, keep smashing that like button. Smash it harder if you can. Central Valley King up. Welcome in, guys. We got a ton of stuff to talk about today. We're going to talk a little bit about De'Aaron Fox and him tying the knot with his longtime fiance. We're going to talk about some open positions with the Sacramento Kings. If any of you guys in the Sacramento area are looking for a job, we're going to go over the Kings preseason schedule that's been released. We're going to talk about some season predictions that were made by ESPN. They also predicted where the Kings are going to rank as far as standings and what their record's going to be. We're going to talk about Bill Russell and the number 6 being retired league-wide. And then we're going to talk about Calvin's favorite subject. We got more updates on Kyrie Irving and his contract demands. And then I want to end the show on some fun stuff. We're going to watch some Bryce and Bronny highlights today from the UK and some tweets from LeBron James. So let's jump right into it here, Calvin. Also want to give a shout out to Alfie, man. Thank you for joining us. I heard his fiance is a total fox. Well, she is now. She's officially a fox now. All right, Calvin, let's jump right into it here. So first off, De'Aaron Fox officially ties the knot with his longtime fiance. This is something that has been festering for a while. They got engaged in late 2020, I believe, September. Reese Caldwell is now a fox officially. The wedding was in Malibu, California, and there were plenty people that were witnessing this. I guess you could say Monty McNair was there. Some of Fox's old teammates were there, but it's official. They're officially wed. They're together. You might know her from UCLA. She also bounced around in the WNBA for a little bit. She also worked in the NBA too. So congratulations to De'Aaron Fox, and awesome news for them. Any thoughts on this, Calvin?
Congratulations to both of them. Well, it's a long time coming. I'm very happy for both of them. You know, I don't think you can really say much more than that. The first thing I was thinking when you put Fox up there was, man, that sweater that he was wearing last year on the sideline still gets me. I just don't understand what that thing was.
Oh, this one up here, that's style, man.
That one, yeah.
Don't know style?
Yeah. That's what the kids go. No, apparently I do not. I mean, you know me, Barry. I wear t-shirts and basketball shorts. That's my style. So
what is that, a map? It looks like a map of something. Anyways,
yeah, he had some very interesting outfits
there was a few notable NBA players that did attend the wedding, including Boston Celtics star Jason Tatum, former college teammate Bam Adebayo, and former King Wenyen Gabriel. And apparently they were having a bunch of fun here. Just going to play a little clip here of them rocking. Jason Tatum was definitely not playing this song during the finals. I'll tell you that. But looks
He
like
was playing it against Bam in the Eastern Conference Finals.
looks like they had some fun here. So congratulations to De'Aaron Fox there. All right, moving on. Let's talk about some job opportunities. No, Calvin, you know, if you are getting upset with your job and serving drinks and working late, there is a job opening here for the Sacramento Kings. It's actually a career that I've never heard of before. A basketball data scientist. Wow. Your dad qualified for this job, Calvin? I know he's a scientist. He loves basketball, right?
Yeah, he's definitely more qualified than I am. Shout out to Marshall. He's going to be retiring from his main job soon in a couple years. So who knows? Maybe, you know, a basketball data scientist is in his future.
Yeah, pretty interesting here. I was reading a few articles on this, and you know, there are a few data analytic driven teams in the NBA. Can you guess who the number one data analytics team is in the NBA? I don't think you'll get it right, but I'll give you a chance.
The Oklahoma City Thunder.
They are up there, but the number one team is surprisingly the Washington Wizards, which is kind of weird, but I guess it makes sense. But teams are going more and more analytics, so they are all hiring basketball data scientists at this point. All right, moving on here.
Wild.
The Kings officially announced their preseason schedule. James Ham posted this earlier on Twitter. We have a few opponents here. We have the LA Lakers, Portland Trailblazers, the Phoenix Suns, and a final game against the LA Lakers. The Kings went 4-0 last year in the preseason. Calvin, can I get in a prediction from you on any of these games here?
Well, I still don't know what's going to happen with the Lakers, whether or not, you know, Kyrie will be a part of that team, and if he even plays in any of those preseason games. I mean, let alone any of the rest of them. So, you know, I think the Kings have a pretty good chance to win a bunch of those games. We all know it doesn't really matter. I mean, it matters. The record doesn't matter. The games themselves matter. But you know, I'll go 2-2. I think with a new group,
Come on,
there's going to
man.
be some, you know, taking time to gel, all that stuff. Well, look, I'd much rather them go over 500 for the regular season than the preseason. But I do want to mention Sacktown Pete. I'm sure everybody in the chat knows Sacktown Pete. Back at it again. Shout out.
Back at it
He
again.
is, I saw on Twitter, going to be he's going to be giving away some tickets to preseason games coming up. So if you
Wow.
don't follow him on Twitter, make sure you do, because he will be on the lookout to hand out some tickets to preseason games.
That's really cool. Shout out to Sacktown Pete. Also, shout out to Jeff the Lefty. I see you here in the chat. What is up? I'm just so excited even looking at this, as I'm like, dude, October, we're only a couple months away to get basketball started up again. But, dude, come on. Seriously, looking at this schedule, you got the Lakers. LeBron's not going to play in these games. Anthony Davis is not going to play in these games. I don't think Damian Lillard will even play in one of these games. I don't think Chris Paul's playing. The Kings have got a good shot to go 4-0
I wouldn't necessarily assume that, Barry. I mean, I get what you're saying. I would be surprised to see them play in all those games. But if you think about those three players specifically, they missed a ton of games last year. They're playing with a bunch of new teammates. So I would expect to see them in at least one game. Well, the Lakers, I would expect to see in at least one game. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Dame play either. I think these guys are looking to get a little bit of run in before the season starts.
I had you hidden there. My apologies. Everyone can see you now. So Calvin's here in the screen. But yeah, good points there. You know, there's a reason they play the games. I'm just excited for basketball to get started. And I know the official schedule is supposed to be announced, I think, like 9 days from now, 8 days from now. So that's going to be exciting as well.
Should be very soon.
And hopefully one of us gets it right and we can win some tickets, because I definitely want to go to opening night.
Come on, Utah.
Come on, Utah. Come on, Clippers. Come on, Clippers. All right, what's up? What's up next here on the schedule? Let's take a look here at NBA projections for the 2022-23 season. Before we get into that, I just want to remind everybody of the standings of last year. Phoenix had the best record in the NBA, 64-18. Kings were the 12th seed here. Hopefully something that we don't repeat. Miami Heat were at the top of the Eastern Conference standings, 53-29. And Magic, Pistons, and Pacers round out the bottom here. Okay, so let's take a look here. ESPN posted NBA projections for the 2022-2023 season. And Calvin, we were just talking about this on yesterday's podcast, right? About who we thought was going to be the best team in each conference, stuff like that. Let's take a look at what ESPN thinks. They think Phoenix is going to finish with the best record in the West, 56-26. Golden State will come in second. You got Denver, Memphis. The Clippers are going to be much healthier this year. Hopefully, Kawhi Leonard will be able to play the entire season. They brought in Wall. Talked about maybe Boogie Cousins might end up going there. We'll see what happens. They definitely need another big. And then you got the Dallas Mavericks here as the 6th seed. Before I scroll down any further, I just want to just let you guys know Kings fans are not going to be happy with these predictions. So if you need to sit down, if you need to relax for a second, give it some goose frabas, breathe in, breathe out, whatever you need to do, you're not going to like what you're going to see. So going down here, this is the play-in group. They got Minnesota, New Orleans, LA Lakers, and the Portland Trail Blazers. Calvin, I mean, looking at this list here, I just want to jump right back up to the top here. It's like, can you disagree with any of these 6 teams? These are all playoff teams, right? We all agree that these are some of the best teams in the West, correct?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, all of these teams are either returning basically the exact same team from last year that was a playoff team, or they're getting much, much healthier and they're already a really good team. This is the problem that we've been talking about for Sacramento this whole offseason, about how they've done what they needed to do on paper to improve the roster, to add talent. But the problem is everybody else did too. And I think that the overlying message from all these predicted win totals is that the West is going to be wild. It's going to be tight. It's going to be highly contested. You've got the Suns, who are projected to have 8 less wins than a year ago and still projected to be the number 1 seed in the
That's
conference.
crazy.
So that shows you that everybody else is catching up to them in terms of competitiveness, and it's going to be a wild ride in the Western Conference.
Yeah, it's very true. So I'm just going to say I pretty much agree with this top 6. And we'll move down here. This is kind of where it gets tricky, right, in these 4. Now, I'm going to agree. I think the Timberwolves are probably a playoff team. The Pelicans. I think the Lakers are up there depending on if they can get Kyrie Irving, figure out what they're doing with Russell Westbrook. And I want to talk about that a little bit later when we jump into Kyrie. But then the thing that really stands out to me here is Portland, right? Like everyone's like, oh, Portland got so much better than they were. Well, maybe they were better than they were in the second half of last year, but I don't think this Portland team is better than last year's Portland team starting the season, right?
Portland to me is one of the hardest teams in the West to rate, because on paper they're a pretty good roster. Like they might have a little bit less than last year. I mean, it depends on what you think of CJ McCollum versus Jeremy Grant, all that stuff. But look, Damian Lillard is one of the top 5 point guards in the league, I would say. And then they added Grant. Anthony Simons, if he takes another step next year, he could be, a really perhaps a 6th man of the year candidate or a most improved player candidate, something like that. So they're still a team that's capable of causing problems. it could also blow up in their face and they could miss the play-in tournament altogether. So to me, they're a really difficult team to read.
Yeah, I agree. Want to give a shout out here to Derek for joining us here in the chat. Derek's got an interesting question here. Would you guys go after Ben Simmons while his value is low? Keegan Murray for Simmons or Davion in a pick for Simmons? Derek, no offense here, but hell no. I'm keeping my hands away from Ben Simmons at this point. I was in last offseason, but as soon as we saw more and more drama unfold, I want that guy far away from the Sacramento Kings, just straight up. Like, we already have too many problems. So I love what I've seen from Keegan Murray. And, you know, honestly, would I trade Keegan Murray for Ben Simmons straight up? Probably not at this point, which is wild. But just talking about like production, salary wise, like fit, I think Keegan Murray just fits this team much better, cheaper. He doesn't have any attitude issues that we've heard about. And, you know, let's go back to just when Ben Simmons was in college, right? Do you remember everyone that was saying, wow, he's this good and he doesn't even try. He doesn't even try that hard and he's this good. Imagine how good he would be if he really tried. That's not something that I want to hear about one of my highest paid players on my team. So I'll just leave that there. Calvin, any thoughts on that real quick?
Well, I know you know where I'm going to go with this. I've been against trading for Ben Simmons from a Sacramento standpoint since all of last year. I didn't think it was a good idea for them then, and I certainly don't think it's a good idea now, given the fact that he's missed another full season of basketball. It's an incredibly risky move, which it's one of those things. It could make you look like an absolute genius if he were to come back and gel with the rest of this team and provide the things that you would expect from Ben Simmons to provide really great defense, helping to set up all the shooters that they have now on the perimeter. And transition basketball with him and Fox, like that's the dream or the best case scenario type of thing, right? But there's just way too many question marks surrounding him right now, let alone the amount of money that you have to commit to him.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that if it'd be one thing if the Kings had Monk and Herter and Murray last year, and they tried, they just fell short again of a play-in tournament or even a playoff berth, and you're thinking, okay, we need to make a major move here and shake things up to try to improve and get over that hump. But they haven't had that opportunity yet. You still have this whole new group of new talent that's been acquired, and I think you run with this roster that you've got right now before you make a deal for Ben Simmons.
Would you do Harrison Barnes straight up for Ben Simmons or kind of same issue? I know that doesn't work financially, but Harrison Barnes is expiring at the end of the season.
I mean, if you were to tell me that I could just trade Harrison Barnes for Ben Simmons straight up, I would consider it, honestly, at some point. But again, I'm just so... I'm really, really anti Ben Simmons right now. And it's not because of him personally, it's because he fails at time in and time out to just get himself on the court. Like, I just need to see him play a game to remember what it was like to watch him, to see signs that he's fully committed and has gotten over all the issues that he's got going on mentally, which is not a knock against him, but it's definitely something that
baggage
as a franchise person that runs a franchise, you have to take into consideration. Like, if the guy can't get in his own right frame of mind mentally to play in a basketball game, that's a major problem for someone that I'm paying $20+ million a year for. So
yep.
I just I would be very, very cautious about bringing Ben Simmons into a group that seems to start to gel, have a good chemistry. They seem to have some momentum building when it comes to building this roster. And I say let's give it a shot with this group that they've got currently. I don't need Ben Simmons to be out there.
Yeah, I agree. What is up, Progressive G? Good to see you here. And yeah, Derek, you're right. It would take more than Harrison Barnes just get him, which makes me even less inclined to do the deal. I'm just going to throw a little, I guess, stock phrase out there for you, since you're mentioning his value is low. In the stock market, when a stock is just dropping in value and you jump in to try and get it because you're like, oh, maybe we're at the bottom. Maybe we're at the bottom here. It's called don't catch a falling knife, right? His value may seem low to what it was a year ago, but a year from now, his value could be even lower, right? If he just keeps down this same path. So it's tricky. You want to get value. You want to buy low, sell high, stuff like that. But he's in a very, very tricky situation. And honestly, I don't think the Kings are the right franchise. They're not equipped to handle that kind of a gamble. Not at this point. All right, so back to this group here. So this is the play-in group predicted by ESPN. And then we got the Sacramento Kings all the way down here in the bottom 5 at 34 and 48. This is very disappointing, Calvin, because I think the Kings were projected to win, 35 and a half games last season? And now they're putting them even below that. The team obviously got better. I think it was
36.
Yeah, I think the team obviously got better. However, like you mentioned, it's the Wild Wild West, and there are other teams getting better. I see Utah down here. They were in the playoffs last year, so they dropped down. I disagree with this. I do. I think that the Kings are going to be above Portland. Honestly, I feel like the 10th seed is probably the floor for them. I think that they could, establish some amazing chemistry. They could be the surprise Phoenix Suns of a few years ago and play exceptionally well early on in the season and get off to a hot start. But I do not see them ending the season in this bottom 5. Maybe it's me being a Kings fan. Maybe it's me being a homer. Maybe I'm just being optimistic here. But I think that this is probably the best Kings roster that they've had in 10 plus seasons, right? Like, there was that one year with Rondo, Rudy Gay, Boogie Cousins. I was pretty high on that team, but it didn't fit. And I don't want to get too much into it, but there was some interesting personalities in that team, so I'll just leave it at there. But this seems like a much more cohesive unit. We have a much more competent front office. I think the coaching staff, I'm really stoked to bring in Mike Brown. And I think that this team is much better than 34 and 40.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think that as well. I certainly hope it's more than 34 wins. That seems like a pretty low win total. But I do think the Western Conference is going to beat each other up this year. I really truly believe that. And it's just going to be really hard for them to leapfrog a lot of those teams. Portland and the LA Lakers are obviously the two teams that you think Sacramento's got a pretty solid chance at being better than. Of course, if the Lakers turn around and get Kyrie Irving tomorrow, that changes things a little bit, just a little bit, because you don't know how many games Kyrie's going to play. You don't know how many games Anthony Davis is going to play, or LeBron, I guess, for that matter. But it's going to be an interesting season, and I think that this, if anything, should only help motivate the Kings. Like all these guys in there, you've heard it from Kevin Huerter and a couple other guys, early on here as we're getting close to training camp, that they're hungry to win. They want to bring a winning team to Sacramento. This, like you said, is the most talented roster they've had in quite some time. So there's a lot of reason to be optimistic and reason to think that 34 wins is too low. But there are also so many other teams in the Western Conference that you can make an argument for got a lot better. So it's going to have to be a trial by error or trial by fire type thing this season. We're just going to have to see how it plays out.
Yeah, and as
I will say that most of the guys who put together this list, who voted for all these, a lot of them had the Laker win total at under 42. Bobby Marks, I know for a fact, had him at 38. So there's definitely reason to believe that the Kings should be able to leapfrog into that play-in tournament at the very least, like you mentioned.
Yeah, it's It's a bummer, but hey, I want to show some positive stuff here. If you scroll all the way down to the very, very bottom of this article, they do say a few positive things. They say that leaves the Kings as the one team projected outside the top 10, actively hoping to finish in that group. With Sacramento's playoff drought, 16 counting, reaching driving age, even a play-in appearance would be cause for celebration in California's capital. There's reason to believe that this could be the Kings' year. They'll get a full season with Domantas Sabonis after acquiring the two-time All-Star before the trade deadline and adding shooting in the backcourt with newcomers Kevin Huerter and Malik Monk to complement Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox. Most importantly, number 4 overall pick Keegan Murray impressed this summer, winning MVP honors for the NBA Summer League in Las Vegas. If Sacramento jumps into the play-in and the other 4 teams in this group enter the lottery in prime position, it's possible everyone could be satisfied with this season. So I know they didn't put us in the playoffs, but they kind of put that little caveat in the end where maybe Kevin is doing this here to protect himself, to be like, oh, I told you maybe the Kings could make it into the play-in, or I don't know, Calvin. They're sleeping on us, but hey, it's been a long time, so I get it.
Again,
I get it.
it shows how competitive the Western Conference should be as a whole, or at least for the top 11 teams, right? Because in the teams 7 through 11, there's 3 of those teams that you could make an argument for. Like, a lot of people do really believe that Minnesota and New Orleans could potentially be top 4 teams in the Western Conference this year if everything works out for them. The new moves, the new pieces that they acquired, that's people think that that's realistic. And the Kings are also in the same boat. Maybe not a top 4 team, but people think they could crack into the playoffs this year. So, but then again, you look at the top 6 teams above all those guys, and you're thinking, okay, well, if that does happen, who's falling here? And it's probably going to require an injury or two, or some guys just having a really down year. So it's going to be a very competitive Western Conference.
Yeah, I also want to throw it out there that if the Kings do finish with this prediction, this will be the lowest win total in Sabonis' career in a season, which is absolutely wild. And I think bringing in Sabonis is definitely going to impact the Kings this season. This is from SactownRoyalty.com, posted by Kings Nation. The Kings lineup looks like a playoff team that can make something happen. Got De'Aaron Fox, Kevin Huerter, Harrison Barnes, Keegan Murray, Domantas Sabonis. I like this squad, Calvin. I mean, HB, we'll still see what happens with him if he finishes this Sacramento, but he is probably the most consistent guy, or at least before Sabonis arrived. He's an NBA champion. Herter's been to the playoffs. Sabonis has been to the playoffs. Keegan Murray, obviously a rookie, but many touted him as the most NBA-ready player. We saw him kill it in the Summer League. And then I think De'Aaron Fox entering in the second year of this contract, having a guy like Malik Monk, having a new coach, and with the rule changes that we talked about last night, I think this is going to be De'Aaron Fox's season. I think he is going to surprise a lot of people. And hey, he could actually end up in the most improved player voting, in my opinion. I'm not sure if he's going to win the award, but if he really takes a step on the defensive end of the floor, if he shoots a little bit better throughout the entire season, when they acquired Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox's three-point shooting percentage shot up to 38% through the rest of the season. So maybe the spacing, maybe the passing ability by Sabonis, bringing in some of these other guys that can help space the floor around Fox. I think Fox is primed for a huge season. So I'll just leave that there. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I mean, we all definitely need to see De'Aaron get off to a fast start, or a good start this year, as opposed to the way he came out last year. But he's not going to have Tyrese Halliburton in the backcourt with him. He's not going to have to worry about sharing, the usage and the ball, and sharing the pick and roll game, because that's what Tyrese does really well too, right? This team should be playing fast. They should be up and down. He should be getting open spaces to attack the basket and get that mid-range shot that we all know he shoots very well. And then he's going to have open guys in the corner to kick to. So if there was a moment for De'Aaron Fox to take the step and become an all-star, it is right now. That's definitely the case.
Yeah, this team is only going to go as far as he takes them. And, I think over the past couple seasons, if you're De'Aaron Fox, maybe you're kind of like, oh, am I really their guy? They just drafted 2-point guards in a row. They've been bringing guys in and out. I really like Luke Walton, and then you fire him. They traded away Tyrese Halliburton. They brought in Sabonis. They gave Fox a max deal. They basically said, you're our guy. This is your team. We're going to play your style of play. And he's got to show up. That's basically what it comes down to. Is he's got to show up. And this season, Kings will go as far as De'Aaron Fox takes.
He just got married too. This could be the year of the Fox.
Yeah.
Maybe they announced they're having a baby soon. That always seems to create like a big spike in play from guys that just had kids, right? We saw it with Derek White last year in the playoffs. So
yeah, as long as he doesn't miss any games, I'm cool with that. But it's going to be an exciting season for the Kings and for De'Aaron Fox. One more thing I want to throw out there. Got to improve the defensive rating. They were ranked 27th last year in defensive in the NBA. I think with the addition of some of these guys, I think another year under Davion Mitchell's belt, I think they're significantly going to improve that along with Mike Brown's help. So I think we talked about it a few weeks ago, but I think the Kings are going to be closer towards the middle of the pack here than the back of the bus. So that could be another way to help them improve their rankings and move up these standings, because we all know defense wins games.
That would be the best way.
Before we jump into the next topic here, just real quick, Calvin, I screenshotted this because I was looking at it earlier and it reminded me of you, because we were talking about defense on yesterday's show, and I know you're a defense first guy. This is a tough question, but this is one of those fun 2 players stay, 2 players gotta go. Draymond Green, Dennis Rodman, Ron Artest, Ben Wallace.
Oh, I hate these bench start cut.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
You got to cut 2 of these guys. Who's it going to be? Draymond Green, Dennis Rodman, Ron Artest, Ben Wallace.
I mean, I hate these. I absolutely hate these.
You want to hear mine?
I'm not cutting any of them.
I'm a big Ben Wallace fan. I am a huge Ben Wallace fan. Like, I loved watching him growing up, and it's just like he amazes me kind of in the same way that Dennis Rodman amazes me. That, like, you're so bad at all these aspects of basketball, but you're so good at the things you're good at that it just elevates you above everybody else. Like, people forget how good of a rebounder Dennis Rodman really was, right? Like, you show the stats of like how many rebounds he had in like a 5-game stretch versus points. Like, he loved getting rebounds. Like, that was his drive. So for me, honestly, unfortunately, Ben Wallace, I'm cutting him, and I'm cutting Draymond Green because I love me some Ron Artest, former Sacramento King, and I love Dennis Rodman. And I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer here, but I just want to put you on the spot. Also, wanted to throw it out there that I learned this today. Ben Wallace is Draymond Green's idol. I did not know that. And I also didn't know that the owner of the Detroit Pistons is a Michigan State alumni, along with Draymond Green. And apparently he tried to draft Draymond Green originally. And he is expected to make a max contract offer next offseason if the Warriors do not jump on Draymond Green. So, interesting news. All right, let's jump into the big news. It's official. The NBA is to permanently retire Bill Russell's number 6 number league-wide after Bill Russell passed away last week. There are currently 10 players in the NBA that are wearing the number 6, including Kristaps Porzingis, LeBron James, and 8 others. They will be grandfathered in, so they will be allowed to wear number 6. I'm not sure if it's the rest of their career or maybe just with that team, but they are grandfathered in, but nobody else will be able to wear number 6. What are your thoughts on this, Calvin? It's a tricky subject.
Well, I think it's very interesting that they're allowing these guys that are still wearing or currently wearing six to keep wearing it. That is more surprising news to me than the fact that the league is retiring the number six. I think that this was maybe not, a slam dunk or a guaranteed thing, but it just makes sense, right? Like, whether you agree with it or not, that you should be able to agree with the reasoning behind it, right? But like, I'm sure there are some people who are saying, well, he's already got the Finals MVP trophy named after him. Why does he need his number retired or something like that? But it's an interesting debate. You and I were kind of talking about this a couple of days ago, and we were saying, well, do people deserve to have if you play for multiple franchises and your number gets retired, do you deserve to have your number retired on all of the franchises you played for? Or is it just the ones that you committed the most production for, the most statistics, the most championships, all that stuff? It's a tricky subject. I think most people can at least understand what Bill Russell means to the league, means to basketball, and therefore it's great to honor him like this. But the question is, where does it stop, right? I mean, do 8 and
Yeah.
24 now need to be retired because Kobe passed away and all this stuff? So,
Yeah, tricky subject. What is up, Neil? Thanks for joining us. Essential Classic, thank you. Tanvir, good to see you in the chat here. Yeah, I mean, you know me, Calvin. I'm a huge Bill Russell fan, right? Like, I have an autographed picture of Bill Russell in my living room. I have an autographed Bill Russell jersey. He's one of my favorite players of all time. So I'm a little mixed on this. I was watching NBA TV earlier today, and they were talking about, well, maybe all these guys that are wearing 6 should just not be allowed to wear it, right? And then they got in the debate of like, well, it's a little late in the season. They've probably already made all the jerseys. Like, how much does it cost to like pull everybody's jersey and switch numbers? Obviously, LeBron James, is probably one of the highest selling jerseys in the league this year, maybe if not the highest. So how much does that cost if they have to bring all that back? But I'm kind of in the same boat as you, right? Where it's like, where does it stop? Because, I'll say it again, Bill Russell, one of my favorite players of all time. A lot of people put him up there as the GOAT because of the championships. I don't agree with that, and I know you don't as well, but I'm not taking anything away from him. But if you retire his number, does that mean you're retiring Jordan's number, 23? What does that mean, like you said, for Kobe? Do you retire 8? Do you retire 24? There's so many great players out there. And, Wilt Chamberlain passed away. What happened with him and his number, right? So where does it stop? I think it's a great gesture. But I'm mixed. I'm kind of on the fence here. If you retire 2 players' jersey numbers a year, that gives you what, 30, 35, 40 years before there's no more numbers left and you got to switch to 3 digits. I know the number 69 is already out of the books. Can't use that. So it's 2
Yes,
numbers
it
that
is.
are out. Famously, Dennis Rodman tried to wear 6. So interesting subject. I'm not going to say if it's the right move or the wrong move, but I'm just happy to see people honoring Bill Russell. The dude definitely gets a ton of respect. I know for the longest time, that guy had to deal with so much, right? Being like the first African-American head coach, all these like trails that he blazed for all these players. Very, very important player. But it's interesting. Matthew says eventually you start
I love the
using
license plate.
alphanumeric jerseys
That's great.
like license
Yeah.
plates. Afghan baby. Oh yeah, what is up? Also, thank you Tanvir for the super
Instead
chat.
of putting the last name. Oh yeah, shout out. Thank you, Tanvir.
Appreciate you.
Instead of putting the last name on the back of the jersey, it'll just be, an alphanumeric number code, like a license plate.
The last 4 of your social.
Yes, exactly.
And yeah, Progressive G, as you point out, Bill Russell was the coach and the GM of the Sacramento Kings at one point. And even he couldn't do it. Even he couldn't do it in Sacramento. Absolutely crazy. If you look at the amount of years that the Kings were in Sacramento, they've been bad more years than they've been good. which is absolutely wild when you think about how many teams are in the league and that, over half of those teams make the playoffs every single year. And it's been 16 straight seasons for the Kings. And before they were good when I was a child, they were horrible as well. So really, really crazy stuff. I'm still going to chalk it up, Calvin, to the frozen envelope. Still upset about that. I think that could have changed everything. What do they say? The butterfly effect. If I ever invent some kind of time traveling machine, who knows? Who knows what could happen? Who knows?
That's where you're gonna start, huh?
Yeah, probably.
The 1985 draft.
I mean, I could just go back a couple years and take Doncic, but I don't want to talk about that right now. What is up, Sean? Good to have you here. Everyone just wears their personal brand icon. Yeah, that's pretty much what it comes down to.
That might be where we're headed. I don't know.
All right, Calvin. Well, it's time. We're going to talk about your favorite subject, Kyrie Irving.
Here we go.
He's back in the news
daily
again.
Dose of Kyrie.
And dude, it's honestly so hard to tell these days what is real and what's not real. They say we're in the information age. I say we're in the disinformation age because we don't know what's true and what's false. I could send you
misinformation.
Yeah, I could send you an article on one thing, and you could send me an article saying the same opposite thing. And anyways, it's been reported by Rick Bucher that Kyrie Irving had a list of demands when he met with the Nets. When they were talking about a contract extension, this is before he opted in. One of the demands was he did not want to play more than 60 games in a season. We were just looking at his record. It looks like in the past 5 years, he's only played 60 games twice. And then another demand was he doesn't want to play in back-to-back games because he says, quote unquote, it is inhumane to play back-to-back games. This couldn't have set well with the Nets owner, right, Calvin? It couldn't have sat well with him.
Oh, no.
And so,
well, I mean, anybody in the Nets organization. Imagine if you're Sean Marks and you're sitting here trying to have a contract extension negotiation, and he's like, "Well, yeah, I don't want to play. I'm not going to play in 60 games. I'm not going to play in back-to-backs." And on one side of the coin, you're like, okay, well, we already knew that. You don't do that anyway. So it's like it doesn't really matter. But at the same time, we're not going to pay you $36 million a year to do that. So it's such a mess. I'm so sad because Kyrie Irving is one of the most talented basketball players that I've ever seen. And I don't care for him at all. Like I really wouldn't be mad if I never saw him in an NBA uniform again, because you don't talk about how good of a player he is. You talk about how much of a headache he is.
How many games did he play in college?
Ridiculous.
You remember how many games he played in Duke?
Nine games.
Games.
That was due to injury, not his mental, but his physical. But he's also had that problem in his career. And look, it's fine if you want to, or not fine. It's good if you want to use your platform and your name and all the money that you've made and all that stuff, and you want to try to make the world a better place. I'm never going to harp on anyone for that. But you get paid to play basketball, man, and there's 82 games in a season, and you're one of the best players in the league, so your team stands so much of a better chance if you play. And as an athlete, it just hurts me so much because he hurts the team so much by saying these things. You can't go to war with somebody like that. It's just such an unbelievable catastrophe, in my opinion. I mean, everybody is throwing shade at Durant, and he deserves a good share of it, but he's not even close to Kyrie Irving, in my opinion.
And I saw a video of Kevin Durant partying with James Harden at a Travis Scott concert. So apparently they have mended that relationship amid rumors that he could potentially be traded to the Philadelphia 76ers. I know him and Kyrie are still friends, but it looks like maybe even he's trying to get away from him. After this was posted, Kyrie Irving, of course, responds, and he says this. So, Calvin, I've always wanted to ask you this question. I'm just going to say it right here. Cap or no cap? You think Kyrie really said this?
Well, look, given his recent history, why would you think that this is totally out of left field? Like it makes sense. All the things that he said, within the last couple of years about how basketball is second for me and doing all this other stuff is first. It just it might not be true, but it's about what you've done for me lately. And what he's done lately is not playing basketball games, and not because he's hurt, because he has this other stance that things are more important to him than playing basketball. And when you get paid to play basketball, that's a bad look.
Yeah. What's up, Bryce? Good to see you in here. Yeah, man. I mean, Kyrie needs to play not a team sport, right? Like maybe he would have been better off as a golfer or like one of the individual sports where he hurts himself instead of hurting the team. But yeah, it's so wild, man. It is really wild. And honestly, I feel like Kyrie is probably one of the most misunderstood players in the NBA, right? Like I try not to judge people based on what I hear about them. I've always been kind of the person of like, I treat you based on how you treat me, right? Because if you go through life, there's always going to be people that say negative or bad things about you, take something that you did or you said and they take it the wrong way. But Kyrie is not helping his case here, man, and it just seems to be getting more and more crazy for him. So it's just so wild. And then we talk about the stuff with Steve Nash. I played the clip of him back in 2020 saying, we don't really have a coach. I could be a coach. KD could be a coach. And for someone that's supposed to care so much about people and says he's respectful and all that, like that doesn't seem like a very respectful thing to say. I saw somebody in here in the chat say that, not playing all these games is not Mamba mentality, right? And we know that Kyrie absolutely loved Kobe Bryant. They talk about when he won the championship, Kobe was the first one that he called. They had a really, really important relationship. I was watching ESPN today, and they were talking about the MVP predictions for next season. They kind of go back and they're like, okay, do we see the Joker winning 3 years in a row? Probably not. And they go on this subject of like voter fatigue, of like happened with LeBron, right? Where LeBron won two MVP awards. And in my opinion, he should have won it again, but it went to Derrick Rose, which I know you're not mad about.
He probably should have won well, no, I'm not mad about it, but he probably should have won more than 3 in a row.
Then LeBron wins 2 more in a row. So if he would have won that, he would have won 5 in a row. But they talk about voter fatigue and all this. And Matt Barnes is on there. Shout out to Matt Barnes. Love Matt Barnes from Sacramento. Former player, Kings fan, Kings announcer sometimes. But he goes on to talk about Kobe Bryant, right? And he's like, well, Kobe put up all these crazy, amazing stats. He only had 1 MVP, right? And Steve Nash was sneaking in there and taking a couple of those MVP awards. I'm starting to think, Calvin, that maybe Kyrie has some hard feelings towards Steve Nash for stealing his idol Kobe Bryant's MVP awards. It all makes sense now. We talked about the wait, before you laugh. We talked about the meeting, right, that they had at Nash's house last year, and Kyrie was there, and he said, show me your championship rings or whatever it is, right? Like, I don't know, man. It might be related. Maybe I'm looking too far into this, but it just seems like so much drama, man. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It's a joke. It's an absolute joke, and it just your actions, obviously in all walks of life, have an impact and have an effect on the people around you. And when you play a team sport, you have a lot of responsibility to the other 12 guys in that locker room. And he just continues to trash that relationship time in and time out, whether he believes that or not, or even if all the other guys in the locker room would get up in front of a mic and say, we respect Kyrie, we understand this decision, Your vaccination status is what it is and all that stuff. And that's all good and fine. But look, man, you can relate this to everyday life. We've all worked at a place where, and in some jobs it means different things than others. But for me, I've worked in restaurants my whole life. There's always been that guy that calls in sick all the time, right? When they're not really sick. Maybe they partied too much last night. Maybe they just woke up and decided, I don't really want to come to work today. And then you have to pick up the slack for
Yep.
them. That's what Kyrie does to his teammates all the time. All the time. And it's absolutely awful. It's awful.
Yeah, Matthew, I wish I had that Sunny meme where I could be pointing at, there's this and the connections here and all this. Steve Nash, Kobe, Kyrie. I wish I could do that meme for you because that's exactly how I feel right now. But yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I know Tanvir wants to talk about Ben Simmons. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But I want to finish up this Kyrie subject. I want to talk about LeBron and Bryce and Bronny. But my perfect transition here is we're going to talk a little bit about Kyrie going to the Lakers. You know, they mentioned the Lakers are now willing to give up 2 first-round picks. I think it's 2027, 2029 with Westbrook. They're bringing Kyrie Irving. Talked about the roster. I think it was last night or the night before. Not that much left on the Lakers, right? Like Anthony Davis and THT are the only people under contract next. It's absolutely wild. Damian Jones could opt in. He does have a player option. But LeBron is entering in the last year of his contract. And today they were talking about on NBA TV, does LeBron accept the contract extension or does he wait until the end of next season? They were talking about Kevin Durant.
Oh, he's waiting.
Yeah, I mean, they were talking about Kevin Durant, right? If Kevin Durant hadn't opted in last offseason, he wouldn't be in the same position he's in right now. And you know he's getting the money either way. He would have got a max deal this offseason either way. So I think it's smart for LeBron to wait. I think that if everybody leaves the Lakers next offseason, they have Anthony Davis. They'll have enough cap space to bring in a third star. Then LeBron can re-sign, maybe give a little bit of a discount to accommodate that third star. It's something he couldn't do if he did opt into a contract extension or accepted a contract extension now. If they did make the move for Kyrie Irving, I still don't think it's a smart move for LeBron to sign a contract extension because Kyrie Irving is a free agent at the end of next offseason, and we don't know what he's going to do. He already left LeBron once. He could do it again. You think LeBron's just going to wait here and put all the pressure on the Lakers? Because I think that's the right thing to do.
Absolutely, he's going to wait. There is no reason. Look, if the Lakers miss the playoffs this season, that means that with LeBron James on the team for 5 years, they'll have missed the playoffs in 3 of those 5 seasons. He has no motivation right now whatsoever to sign any type of deal. For him, 2 years is a long-term deal, right? He's going to be 38 later this year. There is absolutely no chance that he signs an extension with the Lakers until they either get Kyrie or they win. They make the playoffs this year. They give him reason to believe that that it is worth staying in LA because he could go to a lot of different places next year and automatically improve his chances of winning a championship by 10 or more.
Yep. What's up, Alex? Shout out.
Look, we just looked at the list of projected win totals. They're projected 9th.
Yeah. Crazy.
There's no reason for him to sign an extension right now.
Has the LeBron-led team ever been projected to finish 9th? Right?
It's a good question.
Maybe
I don't
rookie
know well,
season?
They were the odds-on favorite to win last year, I guess. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, that's wild.
A good question.
That is really wild. All right, let's jump here into some more LeBron James. Interesting, fun. I think he had an awesome day today. His Twitter feed was blowing up. He says, man, I'm literally watching Bronny and Bryce on the court together for the first time in a game situation. This is insane. I'm emotional AF. Wow. pretty cool here. I know as a father, he has got to be ecstatic. Part of the thing of having children so young, right, is that you're not even 40 years old, and one of your sons is turning 18 this year. The other one is 15. Let's take a look at some of these highlights here. Oh, actually, real quick, before we do that, this is the schedule if anybody is interested in watching. They are playing 3 games, one in London, one in Paris, one in Rome. We had that game today. There's one on Monday and one on next Thursday. Players to watch. I mean, obviously, you got Bronny James here is playing point guard, 6'3". Did you say he's 6'6" now? 6'4"? You're talking about Bryce. I think
not Brian. Oh yeah.
I think Bronny might be
Bryce is a giant all of a sudden.
4 now. I think he might be 6'4", and he turns 18 in October. So interesting to see. But yeah, Bryce Maximus came out of nowhere. Calvin says he's 6'6" now, which is incredible. The dude is like 15 years old, just turned 15 in June.
If you look at him standing next to Bronny, he's definitely taller than 6'4". He's a lot taller than Bronny.
Man, that's got to be a lot of fun, huh? That's got to be a lot of fun. But we got
absolutely
got a couple highlights from today if you guys want to check it out here. Guy's gonna be good, man. You think he's gonna be better than Bronny, straight up?
Well, I do, and I'm not saying that he's necessarily more talented than Bronny, but what he's got going for him right now is his size. You could tell that he hasn't even. I mean, he's only 15 years old. He's gonna grow into his body a lot more in the coming years, and I think he's going to end up looking more like LeBron than Bronny does when it's all said and done. So if he continues to improve skill-wise, he's definitely got a chance to be the best one out of all of them.
Yeah, Bronny James, to me,
I'm not saying better than LeBron, but out of the kids.
Bronny to me is more of a 3-point shooter, more of a point guard, more of a playmaker. Bryce, like you said, is more similar to LeBron, right? He's got the size. He's a better passer. He just even looks like him more in the way that he moves on the court and everything. So, man, that's incredible. One thing, I'm not going to say one thing, but a thing that LeBron will always have over Jordan is if his son or both sons can play in the NBA or make it to the NBA, that's something that Jordan could never do, right?
Well, technically Jordan's kids, not Jordan, but yes, you're right about that. I think it's unfair to say, oh, it's Jordan's fault his kids didn't make the NBA, but
I mean, honestly, Calvin,
Jordan's kids also didn't get lucky and become 6'6". So.
How fun do you think it would be being Michael Jordan's son trying to play against him? He didn't seem like the dad that would be very encouraging and like, oh, you're going to get better. He'd be the kind of guy that would like want to shut you down and take it personally, right?
Well, yes. And ultimately that should make you a better player. If you can get over the mental aspect of, my dad just kicks my ass all the time and it doesn't make you want to quit. Like you adversity and all that stuff. And, a lot of people talk about it with their older brother, right? My dad had all sorts of battles with his older brother. They're only a couple years apart, and my uncle is a little bit taller than my dad, so he had to, work extra hard in order to score on him or to beat him one-on-one, and it made him a better player. And every younger brother will say that they had all these battles. Jordan talks about it all the time with his older brother. So it should be a motivating factor that helps you get better.
Yeah, and the interesting thing, right, is like you mentioned it, Michael Jordan's big brother, Larry. Larry was way better of a basketball player than Michael Jordan for like 16 years.
Allegedly.
But he didn't have the height. He didn't have the size that Jordan had. And then once Jordan took off, there was no catching up. Maybe we'll see something similar with Bronny and Bryce. Maybe. All right.
Well, I will say if anybody's kids have a shot at achieving greatness, right? LeBron is the only person in the history of sports that was hyped as high as he was, and he actually surpassed the hype.
Yeah.
So if anybody can do it again, it would be his kids, right?
I mean, that would be pretty cool. That'd be really, really cool. I mean,
Theoretically.
could you imagine that if we spent 40 years of our life watching a James play the NBA? Because LeBron can play 20 years. LeBron might even play more than 20 years here. And then if Bronny comes in the league, plays a couple years, and then we see Bryce a couple years later and the dude plays for 10, 15 years, that's wild. That is wild. We could see a James being the best player in the NBA for 30 plus years. Absolutely wild. All right, so Tanvir wants to talk about Ben Simmons. Calvin, I'm going to leave this one to you. And good night, Jeff.
Oh, God. Well, Tanvir, I don't really know what specifically you want to talk about with Ben Simmons. I hope you don't want to advocate for him for a trade to the Sacramento Kings, because I'm not on that bandwagon, haven't been ever, I would say. I think at this point we just need to see Ben Simmons on the court. And I also think you have to keep in mind, if everybody's thinking that Ben Simmons is a potential trade piece out there, the Nets could lose Durant and Kyrie Irving. You really think they're going to trade Ben Simmons also? It just doesn't make a lot of sense from Brooklyn's standpoint. I know that a lot of people don't have much expectations for him, but if you're in the Nets situation, that kind of roster turnover less than 2 months or around 2 months until the season starts is just absurd to think about, that you can actually put together a winning team in that short of a time, making those 3 colossal trades. So I don't see that being a scenario that the Nets are going to go down at all.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And that's tough, right? Like, you're just going to trade every single player on the roster, and you just got Ben Simmons. He hasn't even played a single game with your franchise. You just traded James Harden after you gave up a bunch to get him. Then now you might trade Kyrie and get an expiring Westbrook and 2 first-round picks in 7 years from now or 6 years from now. You trade Durant, whatever you can salvage out of him. I mean, for me, the one thing that I'm thinking about in this whole situation is how many bottles of Advil is Steve Nash and Sean Marks and Joe Tsai going through in this situation? Because these guys, man, have to have a permanent headache dealing with all these personalities and all these different people. I don't even know if the legendary Phil Jackson could keep this squad together. Man, they really swung for the fences here, and they might strike out. Fortunately for Nets fans, you and I were talking about it, what was it, last night or 2 nights ago, where we were like, very few times in my life where I'm like, oh yeah, I'll definitely take being a Kings fan over a team that's got Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant on it. But the Nets fans have just got to be feeling it right now. So it is crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
What's up, Skip?
Tough times in Brooklyn. What's up, Skip?
All right, so we talked about a bunch today. We talked about De'Aaron Fox tying the knot. Skip, if you're looking for another job, man, the Kings are hiring a basketball data scientist. Get my vote, man. I think you'd be great for it if you want to put me as a reference on your application. I'm totally down to give you a reference. We talked about the Kings preseason schedule that was officially released. I think there's games against 2 games against the Lakers. You got a games against the Portland Trailblazers, and then was the Clippers the 4th game there? We talked about season predictions.
Yep,
ESPN's hating on the Sacramento Kings again. Nothing new there. We talked about the retiring of Bill Russell's number 6. And then we got on a crazy tangent talking about Kyrie Irving and LeBron and the Lakers, Bronny, and all that stuff. So I think it's time we open it up here to questions. So if you guys have any questions, I know it's late for you guys, but it's not too late for us. It's only 8 p.m. The beauty of the time difference. But if anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them there.
Yeah, thanks for staying up late with us.
In the chat. Also, if you guys want to call in, we have a fan line now. If you dial 916-562-1130, you can call into the show live and have a discussion with us. So if anybody wants to call in, 916-562-1130, call that number. It's free. You could talk with us live on the air. All right, first question, Calvin, is from Sean. Any Kings All-Stars this year? What do you think?
I will say the Kings have at least one All-Star this year.
Will that be?
It'll be either Sabonis or Fox.
That's a cop-out, man. Come on.
Both of them are in there. But...
Come on.
Oh, come on. How is that a cop-out? Who are you going to pick over them? Who's going to be an All-Star above those two guys?
I think there's going to be two All-Stars on this roster. It's going to be De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis. I think it's going to be a little bit harder for Sabonis than it is for Fox, and that's just with all the talent at the position in the West.
Oh, I disagree. I think it's the exact opposite. There's way more talent at the guard position. It's going to be way harder to crack the roster as an all-star guard than it is as a power forward or center.
Also depends if Kyrie comes to the East and to the West, and if he plays more than 60 games too, because that could also be another person that Fox is battling with for sure. Progressive G wants to know, Calvin, your pick for Rookie of the Year. Keegan Murray.
Well, look, I think Keegan Murray's got a great shot. However, this one, it's so tough, right? Because, look, Paolo Banchero, I think, is going to put up pretty decent numbers for a bad team. If Keegan Murray is putting up decent numbers and the Kings are in the playoff mix or actually make the playoffs, I think he probably is going to get the nod. Just like Scotty Barnes last year with the Raptors. He put up really good numbers. The team did actually succeed. They made the playoffs. But you've got a lot of talented guys there in the top 10 who could put up some really, really big numbers. So this is a tough one. But I've said it before. I think Keegan Murray is the most ready player for the NBA in this draft class. He did really, really well in the summer league. I think he will succeed even more with this balanced roster. It kind of fits the style of play that he likes to play. So he's got a great shot to win Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, and Calvin, we actually went over a bunch of these predictions on last night's show, but I think we skipped over MVP, right? I didn't hear your prediction for MVP.
That's a tough one too. Man, Kyrie Irving. No, I'm kidding. That's tough, man. MVP is so tough. There's a lot of players I love out there. I love Ja Morant. Yeah, as you know, I've been a huge Ja Morant fan since he was at Murray State. If the Grizzlies have another year where they're, in the top 3 in the Western Conference, he's definitely going to get some looks. I said it on yesterday's show. Anthony Edwards, to me, is a really key guy to watch this year. I think the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to be an improved team from last year. He's entering the 3rd year of his career, which is typically where you see guys jump from star to all-star or superstar type level. He's got that type of talent. If he builds on what he did last year, he's definitely going to be in the conversation for most improved player. He could put himself in the conversation for MVP, depending on the type of year that he has. But look, there's a ton of guys that you can throw in this conversation. I mean, Giannis, I wouldn't count him out. If the Lakers end up making the playoffs and LeBron averages 30 a game again, he's probably going to get some looks at MVP. You've got the Joker, who's the 2-time defending MVP himself. So it's so early to call in the MVP race.
Yeah, for me, there's a few guys that really stick out for me. First off is Jason Tatum. I think the Boston Celtics are going to be at the top of the Eastern Conference, as I mentioned on yesterday's show. I think he's clearly the best player on that team, and usually that vote goes to a guy that is the best player on the best or one of the best teams. I also like Joel Embiid. I think he might get some pity votes, and I don't say that in a negative way. I just think that people
that's a good call.
Might feel bad for him missing out last year, and maybe he gets one of these awards. Another guy that I'm throwing out there, and I know the Kings fans aren't going to want to hear this, I'm going to throw Luka Doncic. I think Luka Doncic has a great shot at it. I think he's coming in shape, and he just about to turn 24. I think he's going to have a huge season. I'm going to throw two names out there of guys that won their first MVP award at 24. That's LeBron James and Michael Jordan. So I think that Luka Doncic definitely has a shot at that as well. I think the Joker is going to have a great season, but as I mentioned earlier, I think the fatigue is going to set in for the voters. I think it's really hard. I think the last guy to win 3 MVP awards in a row, I think, was Larry Bird, and that was quite a while ago. So it's interesting to see there. It really is. All right, we got a couple more questions here. Matthew says, injury predictions on West Coast playoff teams. This may well decide if we make the playoffs. You want to predict any injuries, Calvin? I got some wood I can knock on here.
I do not predict injuries. That is that's against player code. And I know I'm not an NBA player, but I'm a player at heart, and it is totally against player code to predict an injury on somebody.
Yeah.
Plus, there's been too many injuries over the last couple of years. We want everybody to stay healthy. We want to see all the stars play.
Yeah, I'm not going to name any specific players as well, but I am going to predict there will be some injuries, and it will affect the seeding in the West. I think we're definitely going to see that. I think something maybe similar to what we saw last year with the Clippers. Best player or one of their best players goes down in Kawhi Leonard, and it significantly impacts their season. We also saw it with the Nuggets with Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. I don't know if it's going to be those same guys, but I think we will definitely see injuries affecting playoff seeding. That is for sure. All right, Tanvir says, thoughts on the Banchero versus DeJounte battle in the Pro-Am. Do you think Murray is doing too much? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, are you letting me go first?
Yeah, go for it.
This, in my opinion, this is just a bunch of background noise. Look, the Pro-Am games, they've gotten so much extra attention over the past few years just because, that's the way society is now. And, when there's no basketball, you look to these games. They're so meaningless. At that first game that Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, and John Collins played in together, people were ready to crown the Atlanta Hawks as NBA champs. Those games are complete crap. They really are. Like, they're fun. It's a great opportunity for fans to get in a small building. A lot of these games are free to go to, and it's really cool from a fan standpoint to see your favorite players play up close like that for little to no money. So That part of it I love, but anybody who tries to dissect anything from these games and what it means for the NBA season is wasting 100% of their time. So the beef, there's always beef. I think it's a little odd that DeJounte Murray, we really haven't heard him say anything in his career yet, and now he gets traded and all of a sudden he can't stop talking.
Excited,
Maybe
man.
That's Greg Popovich keeping the leash on him. Yeah, well, and he should be excited, but it's all, that stuff is all meaningless to me. And they're going to play each other a couple times this year, and people are going to make a big deal out of it. And it could be two bad teams playing each other. That's the end result, I think.
Yeah, this reminds me of the first Pro Bowl that I went to in Oahu. It was Cam Newton's rookie year, and everyone was kind of flexing on Cam Newton, right? Like, normally in the Pro Bowl, you don't really hit guys. You don't really play defense. But that year, everyone was hitting Cam Newton because Cam Newton thought he was the shit, right? And everyone was like, oh, we got to put this guy in his place. I'm not saying that's exactly what was going on here, but I think DeJounte Murray is very excited for this season to start. And I don't blame him, right? Like, this is like his first opportunity, like his real chance. So I think that's guys just being competitive. I'm not going to look too much. All right. Eric says Lofton Jr. for MVP. Interesting pick there. I am Israel says, question. You guys think
He did look
Harrison
good in the summer
Barnes
league.
will be with us after the trade deadline? Want to hear your guys' opinion. Thank you. Alvin, I'm going to let you take this one first, too.
It's a tough call. I'll just say this. I think that the Kings or Monty McNair is definitely going to, from now until the trade deadline, he's still going to be looking for an opportunity to make a big move. And Harrison Barnes is probably going to be the number one person that comes up in all of those trade conversations, or the first person that comes up. If the Kings are not doing well either, we get into November, December, and they're in that bottom 5 group that we just saw them predicted to be in, that's going to put more pressure on the front office to make a change. And again, Harrison Barnes is going to be one of the first, if not the first names that comes up in all trade negotiations. So the fact that he's on an expiring deal, he's an aging vet, all this stuff, he's still a useful player to a lot of contending teams in his ability to score in multiple areas, 3 levels. He's not maybe the defender that he once was, but he still gives you the effort night in and night out. So he's definitely an expendable piece right now for this Kings team.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like if he's going to get traded, it's probably going to be in the next month here. If they were to upgrade and bring in a guy like John Collins, which I don't think is going to happen anymore. But then I'm looking more towards what the Kings record is going to look like in December and, more importantly, January. If the Kings are right around 500, I think Harrison Barnes stays. If the Kings are struggling, if they're not doing well at all, I think Harrison Barnes, like you mentioned, is probably going to be the first one to go. I wouldn't be surprised if he's packaged with Sean Holmes and maybe a first-round pick to upgrade at the 3 position. But definitely something to keep an eye on. If I were to just say my honest opinion at this point, whether Harrison Barnes will finish the season with Sacramento, I say yes. Yes. I think the Kings are going to have a good season. I think Harrison Barnes wants to stay in Sacramento if the Kings are playing well. And I think that if they have a decent record going into the trade deadline, I think there will kind of be maybe a unwritten communication between Monty and Harrison of like, I want to come back next season because I like building. So we'll see. We'll definitely see what happens.
It also depends on how a lot of these guys who are in the second and third string roles at the forward positions end up playing,
Yes.
right? Like,
yes.
If one of these young guys comes out and all of a sudden is like, oh man, we need to give this person more minutes. It could be a variety of different people. That also enhances the trade Harrison Barnes idea, right?
Definitely. All right, Sean. What is up, Sean? Says one really exciting element this year, the return of Rashawn Holmes. Yeah, I'm excited for Rashawn. I think Rashawn is probably the best backup center in the NBA because I don't think he's going to start on this team, at least not to begin the season, depending on how Keegan Murray plays. Maybe if Keegan Murray struggles, they pull Keegan Murray, they move Sabonis down to the 4, and they bring in Rashawn Holmes. But I think Rashawn's going to have a great season. Not sure if he'll end the season with Sacramento, but I like how deep this team is, and I think he's going to play exceptionally well as the backup center. And I think he's actually going to get some time with De'Aaron Fox, too. I think he's one of the better rolling big men in the NBA. And I think if you want to push the ball, I think he'll definitely have some great opportunity. You agree, Cal?
I do agree. Absolutely. Rashawn Holmes is definitely got to be one of the top backup centers in the league, an incredibly valuable person. I saw some people talking a lot about the Clippers and how their success this season, because they're so deep, will rely on the second unit buying into their roles. A lot of guys that have used to be or are used to being starters, think of themselves as starters, are going to have to accept a lesser role off the bench, and that is going to ultimately determine how good the team will be. You could say the same thing about Rashawn Holmes, a guy that had to fight really hard for his starting job, lost it, now is in this position where he can still really help the team, but he's got to buy in to what his role is. And I think he does do that ultimately, given what happened last year. It's sort of a revenge tour type thing that, a lot of people are making out for a bunch of players in the league this year, but it's certainly a good problem to have, being that Rashawn Holmes is the guy coming off the bench for you.
Yeah, Calvin, over under on the amount of times Rashawn gets poked in the eye this season.
Oh, God, don't jinx him like that, man.
Hopefully zero. Hopefully zero. All right, Rick says, aloha from the East Coast. Barry, you know I'm a Sixers fan. Yes, I do, Rick, and thanks for joining us. You were just talking about the Nets mess. We've been talking about that a lot recently. That seems to be all that's in the major news right now. The heated debate here is whether to give up Tyrese Maxey in a package for Durant. Thoughts? Calvin, I'm going to let you take this one first because I know you love Tyrese Maxey.
I do love Tyrese Maxey. I was really, really high on him coming out of the draft. I thought it was an absolute steal for the Sixers to get him at, what was it, 21 or something like that. Would I trade him for Kevin Durant? I probably would, especially if I've got James Harden on that team. The Sixers are definitely a team that's in win now mode. It would be hard for me to part with him. But again, if you're talking about somebody like Kevin Durant, there are very few players, I think, that you say they're not touchable for that.
Yeah, and then who ends up playing point guard on that roster, right? Do you throw Shake Milton in there? Do you throw James Harden in there? Here's just a mock trade. The $44 million. We got to send some more salary, so it would look something similar to like maybe Thibault, Harris, Maxey for Kevin Durant. Maybe a couple first-round picks.
It's a lot to give up, but
maybe they give the Nets their pick back.
This is something that you consider. Definitely, I think.
Maybe
there's no getting around.
Pick.
There's no getting around the fact that you're going to have to give up a ton to get Kevin Durant. I mean, you have to give up a ton just to match his salary, period. Plus, the Nets are already asking for this astronomical price on top of that. So you have to be willing to do some sort of unbelievable deal like this. But the Sixers are one of those teams. They're right at the middle of the top, right, in the Eastern Conference. They need that little extra push to make them a championship contender. Somebody's going to have to pull the trigger on a major deal if they want him.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Rick for staying up late on the East Coast and joining us. It's like, what, 2 o'clock or midnight over there? It's got to be pretty late. Yes. Rick, I want to know from you whether you do that deal that I just pulled up there. Because honestly, if I'm the Sixers, I think I say yes. I think I do. You got the connection with Harden. You need to do something. Joel Embiid is an amazing player. I think if you make that deal, that you automatically become the favorite in the. I think that's a great squad. And then you have a guy like Daryl Morey that we know can work magic. He can find other guys to add into this roster to fill in some of those holes. But yeah, I think I do the deal. I think I do it if I'm Philadelphia. All right, Sean. I think Holmes will unleash all the energy from last year that was building up. I agree. Matthew's got a good question here. Would the Nets trade with an East rival? I think they for sure are willing to. I think at this point it's whatever the best offer I can get for him is, right? Like if it's Boston, exactly. If it's New York, if it's Philadelphia, Miami, LA, they don't care. I think they just need to salvage themselves in this situation. So I think for sure they would make a trade with another East. For sure. Questions here. Tanvir says, you think Murray and Trey will be be a good fit for each other, or will this duo fail hard? What are your thoughts on the Atlanta Hawks' new backcourt, Cal?
Well, I'm not so sure. I mean, it's certainly a nice thing to think about those two players together. If they can make it work, I don't know. I will say this. In order for Atlanta to succeed, they've got to figure out a way to play better defense. They're a lot like the Sacramento Kings. They're an
Agreed.
exciting team on offense that can put up a ton of points, but they can't stop a nosebleed. And DeJounte Murray is probably a better defender than Trae Young, but I need to see proof from them that they're going to take the next step defensively. That's how they get better.
Yep, I agree. And shout out to everybody who's still here hanging out with us. Are you guys you guys are staying up late tonight? No work tomorrow, or your mom's not making you go to sleep? That's awesome. I appreciate you guys all for joining us. JJ, what is up? JJ says Harrison Barnes for Ben Simmons straight up. Maybe you missed us earlier, JJ. We were just talking about that. I'm going to say no. I don't think the Nets are willing to do that deal straight up anyways. But if I'm Sacramento, there's too many questions regarding Ben Simmons, man. And the focus has been bringing guys with character, right? Harrison Barnes is all character. Ben Simmons, not so much. Not so much. You want to throw anything in there on that, Calvin, or are you good with my answer?
I think you said it perfectly.
Y'all see Toppin, Randall, and Jalen Brunson lose by 13 in the Pro-Am. I didn't catch all those Pro-Am games, Tanver. I wish I did. We were moving the studio. We were setting up everything. I got to see some of them, but I didn't see all of them. Calvin, did you catch that game?
I didn't see it live. I did see some highlights from it, and I know that they lost. But again, it's a Pro-Am game. Nobody plays defense in those games. Well, none of the real pros play defense in those games. It's basically a layup and a dunk drill. So it's fun to poke fun at the Knicks because they're the Knicks, but it doesn't mean anything about the team.
Yeah, true. Talking about the Pro-Am, it reminded me of the Big Three, and I wanted to show you guys something that was pretty cool that I found the other day. I was showing Calvin, and it's wild the way technology and things are expanding and growing. Not sure if you guys are into NFTs or not. This is OpenSea. It's an NFT marketplace. But basically, they're selling Big Three NFTs. Some of these NFTs grant you season tickets. Some of them grant you ownership into one of these teams. And with that ownership, you have legal rights to the logo. You can make your own merchandise. All this crazy stuff. It's really cool here. It looks like the floor price is about an ETH for a gold membership. And they have, I think it was called the Fire membership. I think there's 25 of these Fire memberships for each team where you are a partial owner. It says Big Three ownership is an innovative new approach to team ownership in professional sports. The league is creating a new model of ownership by leveraging blockchain technology to sell NFTs that represent ownership-like value in its 12 teams. All additions include voting rights towards team actions, priceless game day experience, VIP tickets to all games, and limited edition team, league, and championship merchandise and memorabilia. Fire Edition also include exclusive intellectual property and licensing rights to team names, logos, and merchandise, as well as additional game day activations. Very, very cool. I know, being a basketball team owner is on a lot of people's list. NBA, it's getting up there in the billions, so maybe that's not affordable, but maybe you can afford one of these. 19 ETH seems to be the cheapest one here. So if you got an extra $35,000 sitting around here, you got $35,983.53. Then you got 32 minutes left to buy this NFT for the Ghost Ballers, which if you're a Kings fan, you should know Mike Bibby was on this team. This logo is dope. Just really, really interesting stuff here, Calvin. Really, really cool. Really, really cool.
It is a very cool opportunity.
All right. So back to questions here. Tanvir wants to know, why did the Knicks give a huge bag to Jalen Brunson? Well, Tanvir,
because they can't sign anyone else.
yeah, yeah, I was trying to figure out a nicer way to say that, Calvin. But yes, and I think there's the dad connection. Maybe they brought the dad in to get him. But yeah, they're really high on Jalen Brunson, and this is their first big free agent acquisition since Amari Stoudemire. I can't think of many other big names that ended up in New York. Carmelo was trade. That was a trade. Gave up way too much.
Well, yeah.
He was an expiring
big acquisition
contract. He was expiring, dude. They could have waited 6 months and they could have got him for nothing. Instead, they gave up, who was it? Like Wilson Chandler, gave up like so many assets.
Oh, they gave up a lot.
It was wild. It was absolutely wild. But yeah, bottom line, Knicks need talent, just like the Kings. All right, let's see. Is it 9 in Hawaii? It is 8:32 p.m. here on the island of Maui.
Almost.
Aggressive G, I like having Richaun Holmes for 15 to 20 minutes per game. Yeah, I think he will thrive in that role. I think he will absolutely thrive in that role. Whether that makes his trade value high enough to where the Kings say, we could get this for him instead of having him play 10, 20 minutes a game. We'll see. But I think the matchups he has against a lot of these backup centers is going to be great. It really is. What do you think, Cal?
Oh, yeah. Look, I mean, I'm not going to say anything that I haven't already said. Look, Richaun is a very solid backup center. I think that he will do well playing with Fox and Davion. Pick and roll is his thing. Both of those guys love to run the pick and roll. They excel in it. Maybe it's not the same level as he had with Tyrese Halliburton, but it's still going to be something good.
Yep.
I think he's poised to have a good year. I think people need to temper their expectations a little bit because Sabonis is definitely going to get most of the run. And personally, I would love to see Keita get some more minutes this year.
Yes.
Because I really like a lot of what he has to bring. So that could end up hurting Richaun in the long run. But all things aside, you should expect a good, solid year from Richaun.
That kind of just goes right into Alfie's question here. Who's the dark horse center that will lift the Kings? It could be Keita. It could very well be Keita. I think he's the best rim protector on this team. I think if he continues to improve, the dude is so young. He's got the athleticism. He needs more time. It takes these bigger guys a little bit longer. We saw, when the Kings brought in Hassan Whiteside originally, they drafted him. He didn't really do that much in Sacramento, goes to Miami and absolutely blows up, turns into a shot blocking machine. I think that we could see something similar from Keita. I think Keita is maybe a little more well-rounded than a guy like Hassan, but I think he could be the dark horse. You could throw Richaun in here, but I think we know what we're going to get out of Richaun. So I don't know if I would classify Richaun Holmes as really a dark horse center. Trade Fox, get Ben Simmons. Still wants Ben Simmons. I think that ship might have sailed. We'll see. I Am Israel's got another question here. Who do you guys want to start in the backcourt, and who do you have as a potential sixth man of the year candidate on the Kings? I think it's going to be Fox and Herter, and I think Malik Monk's going to play exceptionally well. I think he can be that Lou Williams heater guy that just can get really hot. Maybe he'll be the next Isaiah Thomas. But I think he's going to play exceptionally well. And I actually wouldn't be surprised if we see lineups where you have Fox, Monk, Herter all out there at the same time too. We talked about a lot of 3-guard sets last year. I think we could definitely see something similar. But as far as starters, I think Fox and Herter are going to end up starting. You agree, Cal?
I do agree. That's been my starting backcourt ever since they made the deal.
Yeah, Matthew, Davion, Monk, Holmes. It's a pretty sick second unit. Yeah, I agree. Plus, you could throw in Terrence Davis in there. Trey Lyles, I think, is going to play well. The Kings are really deep here. They're ready for a COVID outbreak. Knock on some wood here. They're
Oh,
prepared.
don't say that. Prairie, you're just the Jinx King tonight.
Hey, they've been jinxed for 16 years, man. Nothing I say on this podcast is going to mean anything. All right, we got some 2 a.m. Warriors staying up to talk Kings basketball. This is awesome. Also want to remind you guys, if you are watching right now, please smash up that like button. Calvin and I are not professionals. We're fans like you. We do this for fun. We get paid in likes. So smash up that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video and this channel with all your favorite Kings fans. Even if it's late, text them at 2 a.m. Say, hey, you got to check out this Kings channel. They're a lot of fun. Send the message, man. Just do it. All right. Rick says that's the exact deal they are debating. I think Durant is the only player I give up Maxey. Yeah, I mean, Durant's a stud, man.
Mm-hmm.
He's a stud. Really is. He really is. I saw an article today talking about in their primes who is a better scorer, Carmelo Anthony or Kevin Durant. And, you know, this is a debate I had years ago with a lot of different people, but specifically my old roommate Kyle. We would talk about this all the time. I was a huge Carmelo Anthony fan, and I gave the edge at the time to Carmelo Anthony. Obviously, I think that Durant might have passed him here in terms of shooting ability and all that stuff.
Might have.
But I don't know, man. Carmelo was a much better post scorer. He could do a lot more things down inside than Durant can. But real quick, Calvin, give me a quick hot take on this.
Durant's a better player. That's an easy one in my opinion.
Better
Durant's always
score.
been a better defender than
Score.
Carmelo. Carmelo's one of the greatest scorers of all. People want to give Kevin Durant the title of best scorer in NBA history. He can do things that no other human being at 7 feet tall has ever done that I've seen. His ability to he's the best 7-foot ball handler I've ever seen. His shooting is equal to Carmelo, and we're talking about two of the greatest scorers ever. But Durant gets the nod for me because he's always been a better defender.
Obi Toppin is topping. Obi Toppin ain't no stopping. Obi Toppin. He's on the Knicks. Calvin's pick for rookie of the year a few years ago. Unfortunately, one that didn't work out well. But he's right more than he's wrong.
That one did not work, but
right more than he's wrong.
If he wasn't drafted by New York, he would have had a better chance.
Rick says, forget Ben Simmons. I threw his jersey in the Kihei Salvation Army bin right before I left. Oh,
that's awesome, man. Barry, we got to take a trip to Kihei and go to the Salvation Army.
We go to the Kahului one. Hey, sometimes there's some steals there. We got some cool props for the old setup at the Salvation Army. There are a lot of diamonds in the rough there. Yeah, Progressive G, it is crazy how fast the NBA team's valuations have gone up. Imagine if MJ ended up selling his team, right? Like how much money he would have. Dude is just absolutely. It is really.
He prints money anyway. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, Matthew, I know you got 35K going around. You probably got how much time you got left here? Oh, you got 32 minutes left. You better jump on it. Let me know if you need help setting up a MetaMask account. John says, you think Monty gets an extension before the end of the season? I believe Monty already did get an extension, Sean. I thought that was official. Let me see if I can find the article. I believe he got a contract extension. Hear that, Cal?
I can't remember. It sounds right to me, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to stay on top of some of these things.
I could have swore I saw an article saying that
Hey, Monty.
they were either close to a contract extension or they started negotiating or it was official. But I think McNair is safe for another year or so. Don't quote me on that. I will see if I can find that. Yeah, hashtag Hey Monty. Hey, Monty's doing a great job, man. Definitely. All right, Tanvir wants to know if you guys are watching Euro basketball when it starts. Who do you have winning it? Calvin, I'm gonna let you take this one. I'm not a big Euro guy. I love the
I
food.
am totally watching this. This is going to be an incredibly entertaining tournament. I mean, European basketball has gotten to a whole new level, obviously, over the past 10 years or so. We've had four consecutive international MVPs in the NBA. All of those guys, by the way, are playing in this tournament. It's going to be very, very fun to watch. And I think it's going to be very tight. I am going to go with Luka and Slovenia, though, to win the whole thing.
Good pick.
I don't want to count out Giannis and Greece, but I'm taking Slovenia to win the whole thing.
Great, great pick. All right, and we have our last question of the evening. Who is your current favorite Kings player? Calvin, who you got?
This is a tough one for me because I like a lot of the Kings players for different reasons, but I'm going to go with Davion Mitchell. Davion, to me, embodies what a basketball player should look like. He's the type of player that kind of can like sympathize is not the right word, but I could see myself a lot in him because he's a defense first guy. He's a smaller guard who still has, the ability to get to the basket and hops and all that stuff, which I did have at one point in my life. I don't really have it anymore,
You
but
still got
I just
hops,
love the
man.
way that he handles himself. Well, I can still dunk, but I don't have the hops that I used to. But I love Davion. I love his attitude. I love his attention to detail. The fact that he's in the gym working so hard all the time. He is, to me, what a basketball player should look like. And I think that he's going to be very, very successful because of that. So I love Davion right now.
Yeah, it's also a tough question for me as well. I absolutely love Davion Mitchell. I love his work ethic. I love his attitude. I think he can be a Marcus Smart. I don't know if he can be better than Marcus Smart, but I think he definitely has Marcus Smart type potential. But for me, honestly, Calvin, you know who my favorite player was. It was Tyrese Halliburton. I enjoyed watching him. He was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, he got traded. So I got to say, my new favorite player is probably the player he got traded for. I'm going to say Domantas Sabonis. I love Sabonis's game. I love big men that can pass that much. It reminds me of an old Vlade, right? Not the GM Vlade that nobody likes, but the Kings Vlade that everybody loves. He reminds me of that. He's strong. He's big. I love the nickname, the Ox. I love how he's always smiling. He seems to be in a good mood. All his teammates seem to love him and care about him and all that. But the thing for me that really puts it over the top, Calvin, is the fact that we traded for him one day, and the next day he was in Sacramento, and that night he was in the arena. And that was the most energy that I've felt in a Kings arena in 10 years, 10 plus years. That was the most energy I've found. It was so much fun. I had a lot of Coronas in the lounge. I had a lot of punch at Punch Bowl Social afterwards. It was just an amazing experience, all brought on by Domantas Sabonis. I love the dude's attitude. I love his game. I think he fits in really well on the Sacramento Kings. So I think he's probably my favorite player at this point. Any chance Sabonis wins
That's a
Euro
good pick.
basketball? Last question by Tanvir. Go for it, Cal.
Well, yeah, sure. There's a chance, but look, his team is probably not even in the top six teams, I would say, in this tournament. And that's including a Spain team that has definitely fallen, from grace, being the top team in Euro basketball for a long, long time. But you've got Serbia with Jokic, you've got Slovenia with Luka, you've got Greece with Giannis, you've got France, they've got Rudy Gobert and Evan Fournier and all these guys. There's a lot of really good teams. So Sabonis has got a chance, but their team is not nearly as strong as some of these other teams in this tournament.
All right, we got one last one. It came in here at the buzzer. Last question. Who gets the first poster dunk from the Kings? I'm assuming this is a Kings player posterizing somebody else, not one of the Kings players getting posterized. So I'm going to say De'Aaron Fox, man. I think De'Aaron Fox is going to be excited to start this season, excited about this roster, and I could just see him running up and down that court and dunking on people. So I got to throw Fox in there. All right, Calvin, any last words you want to say before we wrap it up here?
Thanks for watching. Thanks for staying up late with us again. We will be back next week with more Kings content. We love you guys. We appreciate everything.
Yes, thank you guys so much for joining us. We appreciate you all taking the time out of your day or your night to hang out with us. We know there's a lot of different options to spend your time on, so we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Please don't forget to hit that like button. Smash up that subscribe button. We will be back next week. We're doing lives every Tuesday and Thursday night starting at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're also live on every Wednesday on our other channel, Basketball at the Bar, where we cover the entire NBA. We're also giving away a Fanatics gift card, $250 when we reach 1,000 subscribers on our other channel, Basketball at the Bar. Make sure you guys go check out that channel. Make sure you subscribe to that channel. Watch the Fanatics video. Get yourself entered into the contest. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a wonderful evening. Don't forget, go Kings.